Hello, this is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Put your questions in the comments right now so that I may answer your questions. I have a great topic for you today, and this is one of those big concerns, rightfully so, in the immigration process. And it's how much does your sponsor need to be making in order to get you your green card? Because there is what's called an affidavit of support that needs to be submitted with your paperwork or at some point in the process for you to be able to get the green card. Now, the affidavit of support is like a contract between your sponsor and the government saying that they're going to support you financially if necessary for the next 10 years or until you become a US citizen. It's a very important document, and the purpose of that document is to ensure that the immigrant does not end up being in the United States destitute or end up, depending solely on long-term care or any kind of long-term public assistance. So they will not approve unless you are exempted. And I'm going to list some of them that are exempt from this affidavit of support. But most people under family immigration who are being sponsored by a petitioner will need this affidavit of support. Now, there's a basic list a basic list of the income based on the household size. And it's on a form called the I-864P form. That is going to tell you exactly how much your petitioner, your sponsor needs to be making to qualify for this. So I do have the list here, and I'm just gonna give you one or two examples of what the income requirements look like for the basic income requirements look like for the affidavit of support. So if it's a household of two means the sponsor and the immigrant. In this case, if the sponsor is an active military member, it's going to be a lower amount than if you were not in the military or not an active military member. So for a household of two, for a military member, it's 18,310 annually. And if you're not in the military, then it's 22,887. Now, this example I'm giving you is based on 48 states. There are some other states that go by a higher number just because of the cost of living there is different, such as Alaska. So Alaska and I believe Hawaii would be different. But for the 48 states, it is going to be this number that I just listed here. For a household of three, it's going to be 23,030 for active military members annually that they have to make. Or 28,787. Now, you notice I said a household of three. Who is going to make up a household? How are you going to count the household number? The household number is going to be dependent on the number of dependents that you are taking care of. And it's going to also count the immigrant. So it's going to be the immigrant that's sponsored as well as dependent. So children is not on anybody who's under 18. It is anybody who is under 21 will be counted as a child, a dependent child, regardless of whether you're paying child support, regardless of whether they're living with you, they're going to be counted as part of the household, because in the eyes of the immigration, they're your children, they're under 21, and so they're still your financial responsibility. And so they will be counted as household members. So if you're the immigrant and you have a spouse who is sponsoring you, and then you have three children who are under 21, that's going to be a household size of 5. And for a household size of 5, it's going to be, for active military members, it's going to be 27,750. And for those who are not in the military, the sponsor, it's going to be $34,687. Now, what if you're here already and you're the immigrant? Does your income count towards the affidavit of support? It's going to depend. So if you are here without status and you're not legally working, it will not be counted towards the income. That means you can't add your income. However, if you are here with status, so say you're here with TPS, or you're here on an employment-based visa, and now you're going through adjustment of status through a family member or a spouse, then you could also add your income to the, you're going to add your income to make up for that requirement. So it would be beneficial for you in that case. Another thing is that you have to be wary of is, what if you're sponsoring your child? So what if you're sponsoring, you're here and you're sponsoring your child, say you make under the amount that's necessary, right? You alone, say you have a joint tax return with your spouse, the both of you together make up that income. But if you submitted your income alone, it would not meet the income requirement. In that case, your spouse that jointly filed with you will have to file a separate affidavit of support form called the I-864A for household members. And that's what's going to still allow you to meet the income requirement. So, and this is basic information that I'm giving you. Keep in mind that I'm not giving you personalized legal advice. This is a complex aspect of the application, but I do want you to be aware of the basics so that you understand going in what's required. But keep in mind that it's important to get legal advice if you have more complex situations in your affidavit of support. Now, another thing is evidence. What should you attach? So generally, the essential aspects of this will be tax returns of the sponsor. So whoever is sponsoring it, it has to show the tax returns. You have to go ahead and show that you do have legal status, that the relationship with your with the immigrant, so you do have to prove relationship. If there is now acquaintances, friends can submit this as well, but when you're the petitioner, you do have to still show how you're related. Is it marriage? Is it that it's a parent-child relationship? And domicile. So the sponsor does have to show that they are in the United States and the income they're getting is in the United States. So tax returns, the most recent one is going to be essential pay stubs or any kind of solid proof of income. So some people, for example, own their own businesses, and that's going to require a lot more documentation to document your income and to prove that you consistently make that income. If you make a paycheck, then you'd have to just submit your pay stubs, as well as the W-2 statement. That's going to be essential for the tax return. Also, the tax return that has to be added has to be a complete tax return, not just the first 2 pages. It has to have all the schedules included. That's a big problem. So the affidavit of support, I find, is one of the major issues that happens in the process that causes delays, even denials. This, surprisingly, the affidavit of support is where the hiccup usually begins. So this is all the more reason that you should ensure that you get legal representation through your process so it's done properly. This is your future. This is your life. You want to make sure that you're not making any mistakes. That's going to lead to devastating delays. So keep in mind that the affidavit of support is one of those weak areas that I often see things go south from there. All right, so I see questions, and go ahead and put your questions in the comments. Now, let me just add this. Where do you find the list that I gave you? So I gave you some examples of the income requirements, but you can see the entire list at uscis.gov, right? uscis.gov. And if you go to forms and you scroll down to the I-864P form, you will access the entire list. So for example, if you have a household of 8, you're able to look, and household of 8 is going to include the children, your spouse, if you reside with your spouse, as well as the immigrant. All right, so questions I see here. Hi there on YouTube, it's nice to see you. So just the topic I wanted to hear. If I live in Virginia and filing concurrently, where should I send my application? So I wouldn't be able to tell you that. When it comes, that is definitely one of the areas that people make a lot of mistakes, is where you send the application. So I don't give personalized legal advice, and I definitely can't tell you where to file. That is what I do for my clients. But you can always go to USCIS and check there. They do give instructions for each form. And you said you're filing concurrently, but I don't even know the nature of your application. There are multiple ways that you can file concurrently in different application types. So it's going to be very dependent on all of that. And what about if there is a co-sponsor? So if you have a co-sponsor, you have to include that. If you're doing adjustment of status, you have to include everything with that one application. If you don't include the I-864 with the application, you're going to get a request for evidence to get it, to submit it. And usually it delays the process. If you don't submit that affidavit of support, it can even lead to a denial. So you have to be very careful with that. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about with the I-864 form is, when is that required exactly? I just talked about it in the adjustment of status context. So where you file everything at one time. So concurrently means filing at one time. So you file all the petitions and applications together. You do have to file the I-864 along with the adjustment of status application. However, if you are an immigrant and you're outside of the United States, the affidavit of support is going to come at the National Visa Center. That's where your relative here in the US first submits what's called a petition. The petition, all being well, is approved. It gets moved to the National Visa Center, that then sends you, so in the US adjustment of status process is included with the fee. But when you're dealing with the National Visa Center, they send you an invoice for the adjustment, for the affidavit of support. And then from there, you go ahead and pay the fee and then submit your affidavit of support, which will be based on a number of factors. Who's sponsoring? What is your income? Is there a household member that is contributing to the income, and so forth? All right, so let's go to more questions. Thanks for the love. I appreciate it. Thanks for the love and the follows. I appreciate. How long would it take to get my green card through marriage? So I say it's going to depend. If you're outside of the US, you're looking at about an 18 to 24 month process. If you're in the United States, it could be as short as 5 months. It could be as long as over a year. So it's going to depend on a number of factors. That's where representation can make a difference. Because one thing I find is someone will schedule an appointment with me and they'll tell me they DIY'd it. That means they did it themselves. And now they're having all sorts of issues and it's taking long. Usually they're about a year and a half into a process that really shouldn't have taken that long. And that's because part of the problem here is that they DIY'd it. They did it so do it yourself. Don't do it yourself. If you've never, you don't know what you're doing, you have any doubts, that is going to be the reason you need to make sure you're represented through the process. And I've seen it, unfortunately, time and time again, where people underestimate the process and it turns ugly for them. Okay, so how long does nanny sponsor going to take? Currently live in the US. So if someone is sponsoring you for, and I wouldn't, it just depends. Is it an EB3? How are they sponsoring you? Is it a change of status? It's gonna depend. There's just no nanny sponsor. Do you have a J1? What are they doing to sponsor you? And that's gonna be important to determine what the estimated processing times would be. If immigration stamped no AOS or EOS in 2009 but gave you 6 months in 2020, can it affect your adjustment? No, I don't want to say. I've seen this before and it did not, but I don't know what your case is. I don't know what the circumstances were involved. For example, if you came in and you had a crewman's visa or something of that nature, or the status that you came in with doesn't allow for adjustment of status, then there could be a major problem here. If it's a B2, then it's not necessarily true that AOS isn't allowed, but I would have to figure out what are the circumstances involved to determine whether that's a problem. When in doubt, get legal advice, and that's your cue to get legal advice to talk about what happened here. What's the work-life balance of someone of your field? Oh boy, that's a whole other life. How long after NVC do you queue for spousal appointment to be scheduled outside the US? It depends on the country. As it's right now, some places it's taking over a year to get that interview, unfortunately. And some places they may be moving faster. So can my half-sister file for me in the US? Your half-sister could file for you. Keep in mind it is a 14-year process right now, but a half-sibling can sponsor. How often can someone travel to the US on a B1, B2? It's going to depend. You don't want to be coming in, maxing out your time, leaving to come right back. That is going to raise a red flag, and they could turn you around and cancel your visa. So it just depends. Are you coming in January for a week and then coming back in December for a week? That wouldn't be too bad. But if you're maxing out your time, so they're giving you 6 months and you're maxing it out, leaving for short periods of time to come back, then you could have a problem, because they do, when they see those kind of patterns, they feel like you're trying to live here, you're trying to work here on a B1, B2. How long does a spouse take to come to the United States? I sponsored my husband 15 months ago and nothing. So, right, I would say expect about 18 to 24 months just because of the backlog right now. I just got married living in Tennessee. Can I get you to do my paperwork? Absolutely. Give us a call and schedule a consultation. That's how I start to figure out what's going on in your particular matter and then determine how to move forward. So go ahead, and if you go to the Instagram button, you'll be able to see my number. And if you look at any of my videos, you can see my number as well. Can you elaborate about the T visa? So the T is for victims of labor trafficking, and labor trafficking and sex trafficking comes in different forms. My rule of thumb here is if you are in a situation that you don't want to be in and someone is forcing you to do something against your will, whether it's sex, whether it's labor, whether it's things around the house, and they are controlling you. They're threatening to call immigration on you. They're using all sorts of tactics like, saying they're going to get you your work permit or green card, then that can qualify you for the T. This is what I help my clients with, so give us a call. My number is 561-405-4889. I'm going to put it in the comments, and it's going to be under Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. So 561-405-4889. So I'm the immigration attorney. Go ahead in the comments, scroll through quickly, take that number down and give the office a call, schedule a consultation. And that's where I evaluate all your options, make sure you qualify before we get started. All right. So green card through US citizen mother for minor child. Okay, so you're a citizen. I'm thinking you're the citizen and your child. So, yeah, your affidavit of support and the adjustment of status application is going to all depend. I wouldn't be able to tell you where to send that application. You have to go to USCIS and check that to make sure, because that's one of the mistakes that, where people send it to the wrong place. What happened when you have a 2-year visa about to expire? So is it the 2-year green card or is it a visa? It just depends on whether you qualify to reapply to extend your status. So give us a call and we can talk through what your situation is. All right, I'm going to head on over to, and Chef Andre, thanks so much. I'm looking forward to helping you. Okay, so what happened when you have a 2-year green card about to expire and the spouse are no longer married? You have options, pretty Pocahontas. There are 3 ways. So the first is through divorce and showing that your marriage is real. The other is through showing mistreatment or extreme cruelty and showing that your marriage is bona fide. A third is extreme hardship. I do work with my clients to get this done. So go ahead, call, schedule, and we will work on getting it done for you. I filed I-485, I-130 a year ago. I did fingerprints, haven't gotten a work permit yet. How long? So I've seen, we just got the work permit within 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks of filing. And the maximum I have seen is about 8 months. And I've heard some people say it can take up to a year. So, it's definitely a long time, and you should go ahead, give the USCIS a call and see what's going on with your case. Do you have to go back to the interview for the 2-year to the 10-year? Yes, they are going to call you unless you file that waiver. So that's where you need to file that waiver. And the waiver has to be done properly for them to accept it. And keep in mind that if a waiver is done properly, they may not even require the interview. I mean, even if a waiver is done properly, they may still call an interview because sometimes waivers are more complex and they have additional questions. However, there is a chance that a thorough application would get a waiver of the interview. So no, I'm not. No, I'm not a part of the MetLife. I'm not a part of the MetLife program. Who can I contact to check on my I-485? Call the USCIS. Go to their website and you can go ahead and give them a call. Thanks for the follows. I'm going over to Instagram. I'm the Immigration Attorney on Instagram. Join me there. Thanks so much for watching me on YouTube and on TikTok. Now go ahead, and I put my number under the Immigration Attorney on TikTok. Go ahead, write down my number now. So it's 561-405-4889. You can give us a call, or you can click on the Instagram button. Join me on live in a few minutes on Instagram, where we can continue talking, and you'll see most of my content there as well. So I post a lot of content there. You can follow me there and get the number, get the link to be able to schedule an appointment. Thanks so much for your time on YouTube and TikTok. Remember, share whenever you see me, share my videos, share my lives, and follow me, because the more I can spread this information is the more empowerment and knowledge you get as immigrants. But keep in mind that if you need personalized legal advice, that means you're about to take action in your situation, you should always schedule an appointment with an attorney. I am a U.S. immigration attorney. I represent clients in all 50 states and around the globe, and I can help you as long as you have an immigration question. On YouTube, go to the description below the video and you'll see the link to go. You'll see all sorts of goodies to schedule your own appointment, to go to the website, and you'll also see a sample for the marriage-based green card interview. So go ahead and do that now. All right, thanks everyone. I'll see you on Instagram, hopefully. Bye-bye.